So today I'm going to show you my favourite way of cooking a steak, reverse searing, and I've got this exceptional Wagyu steak from Cotswold Wagyu that I've had sitting around for a month or two now, waiting for the perfect time to use it. And look at that, absolutely exceptional piece of meat. So this is a Wagyu Tomahawk steak, which means they've left the bone in here, which really adds the flavour when you're cooking the meat, but it also makes a really great centrepiece on the table. Let's face it, who doesn't want to eat a Flintstone steak? So if you've not seen Wagyu before, the marbling is what's important with the steak. So you'll notice in the middle here, you've got a lot more marbling of fat than you would normally have. So I've had this one sitting out most of the day just to bring it up to room temperature. So it's nice and soft now. We're going to keep it really simple because it's all about the meat with something like this. And we're just going to have a little bit of salt. And this is just kosher salt, which you hear about a lot on the American videos. And I've only just got hold of some. I'll put a link in the video if you want to go and pick some up. I think it's pretty much the same as the Maldon salt that I tend to use, but we'll see how it goes. It's a cracking bit of meat, this. I always try and pick up the best quality ingredients that I possibly can, whether it's the salt or the meat itself, because I think it really comes through in your cooking and it makes it a lot easier. You know, cooking a bad bit of meat is hard, cooking a good bit of meat like this is super easy. This should taste absolutely exceptional, but let's see. We're going to do something called reverse searing, which is where you bring the temperature of the meat up very, very slowly. You then take it off, bring your grill up as hot as you possibly can get it, pop the steak back on after about 20 minutes or so, and just sear it off at the end to give it the nice grill marks. So a steak this size, which is 1.6 kilos, believe it or not, I reckon is going to take us a good half an hour to cook slowly and bring it up to temperature. Cooking this steak is going to be really easy. We're just going to cover it in salt, and then once it's covered in salt, we're going to pop it on the grill. You want to be careful with the steak when you're turning it over because the bone can be a little bit delicate, especially if it's been sitting around and warmed up all day. So flip it over. So once you've salted one side, we're just going to salt the other. So once you've got a good coating, just give it a bit of rub over to make sure that any of the bits of salt that have piled up are evenly covering the meat. And we'll check the other side. Pop a bit more on there. Don't be afraid to put a fair amount of salt on the meat. It's not going to do it any harm. Once you've coated each side, you want to get the ends as well. So just pop it on its edge and put a bit of salt over the top. Sometimes you'll find there's quite a bit of salt on the board. So you can just roll the steak on the board to gather that up as well if you want to. Again, just pat it down a little bit to make sure the salt takes nicely. And that's really it as far as the preparation is concerned. So grill wise, you want to have that somewhere around 225 Fahrenheit or I don't know, about 120 Celsius. Because this is such a good piece of meat, I'm actually using my fireboard to control the temperature today. So you'll see a couple of probes in a minute when we open up the grill. So once you've got it stable, we're going to do something called indirect cooking. So rather than cooking the steak over the coals, which gets the full intensity of the heat, we're just going to be cooking it slightly offset from the coals initially, and that just allows the heat to surround the meat and bring it up to temperature a bit more slowly. Alright, so now we're ready, let's get it on the grill. So I'm just going to flip it over to make sure that the bone is in line with the edge of the big green egg, and on she goes. Now at this sort of temperature you shouldn't get any form of searing or noises coming off the grill because we're looking just to bring it up really slowly and gently. So with the probes, we're just going to insert the probe the furthest distance away we can from the flames, and we're going to get as much of the thermometer in as we can. So it's reading from the centre of the meat. There we go. And we'll shut that down. and we'll leave her for about 10 minutes or so just to start warming up. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes. Let's open it up and see how she's doing. She's looking good. So we're just going to turn it over. There we go. And start heating up the other side slowly. With reverse searing, we want to bring it up to about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 40 degrees Celsius, before we take it off and pop it on the side for 10-15 minutes to rest. So the nice thing with the external thermometers like this one is it will give you an idea of what's going on inside your grill at any one time. So we're currently at 80 Fahrenheit, not sure what that is in Celsius, but it will be about probably about sort of 30 or so Celsius, I suppose. And we want to bring that up, as I say, to about 100 Fahrenheit before we take it off. So we flipped it and we're going to leave it for another 10-15 minutes and just keeping an eye on the temperature. If you don't have an external temperature controller like this one, that's absolutely fine. I'd really recommend picking up a thermopen. They're a little bit pricey, but they're well worth it. My one's on the blink, sadly. But you just crack it all the way open and then you probe your meat right in the centre where you want it, and you'll see I wasn't far off. It's about 30 to 32 degrees Celsius at the moment, just dropping down a little bit. So we've got a little bit of way to go yet. Just going to have a beer or a glass of wine in my case. For about 10-15 minutes, it's time to wrap it. So get your tin foil, and pop it on a board. Get your glove because it's going to be hot. And just move it across, trying to keep as many of the juices as you possibly can. And then wrap it as tightly as you can. I like to double layer it, but it's entirely up to you. Now the trick with wrapping it is you want to get the tin foil as tight to the meat as you possibly can. So down here you'll see that I've got the tin foil really crunched up nice and tightly, and the same with the back edge. That's just going to avoid any air inside and just allow it to cook as opposed to steam, which is what you want to avoid. Right, so she's wrapped now. So we're going to leave her inside for about 15-20 minutes to continue cooking. The internal temperature will continue to rise at this point, and that's what we want. And then we're going to bring the grill up as hot as we possibly can, just to finish off searing it. Right, here we go. So we've been resting for about 20 minutes or so now. The Tomahawk is still lovely and warm. A bit of juices have escaped, but that's okay. And you'll see that the grill really is hot now. So just unwrap the Tomahawk. Look at that, that is looking fantastic. Right, and then we're going to drop it onto the grill for about 30 seconds.
I've had enough of YouTubing.
Don't waste the juices, pop those on top. So once you've done either side, you just want to sear off the fat. And there we have it. Tomahawk, reverse seared on the big green egg. I think that's good to eat. Let's go.